Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to the 22nd of May. Certainly good to be with you. You have joined me on the Daily Dose. We've had a rough couple of days. It's taken me a little while, but I have the 19th, 20th, and 21st uploaded to our YouTube account, so you can find those. They will not be in the live area because I had to record them and then upload them as uploaded videos. So, but you can find the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st on the YouTube channel. And of course, today is the 22nd. Thank you for joining me for your daily dose of Pinellas Park, your daily dose of encouragement, and your daily dose of encouraging other people. And that's one of the big reasons why we do this, to help you help other people, to help you encourage other people. And perhaps there's no better place for us to go. And you could say this about a lot of places in the Bible. But there's no better place for us to go than to the book that says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. And all things are possible through Christ who strengthens me. Perhaps that's the best place to go, to refocus our minds and to get us to where we need to be. But we are going to be in chapter 4 of the book of Philippians today. We're just kind of bouncing all over. We're not going verse by verse. We're not going line by line or word by word. We're just bouncing around and getting ideas and inspiration from various places. So we're back to a section that we've already read in this Philippians chapter 4. And Paul is kind of winding things up here. And he says, verse 13, that verse that we all know, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Yet it was kind of you to share my trouble. And you, Philippians, yourselves know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me in giving and receiving except you only. So Paul says, look, he's a missionary. He's out here traveling. He's trying to spread the word of God, and he can't get anybody to partner with him. Kind of reminds you of, some mission works today even. Who go around and they're doing great works, but they find it very difficult, to raise funds. And yet, oddly enough, that's the very mission of the church. It is the mission of the church to go into the world, to go to every creature, every nation, and teach and preach, the gospel. That's the mission. And just like today, Paul here back in the first century, he's finding trouble getting people to partner with him, so that they could have an exchange. Them of their physical goods, and he of his spiritual teaching. But he says the Philippians helped him, and he says, except you. Even in Thessalonica, you sent me, verse 16, sent me help for my needs once and again, right? So it wasn't just one time they partnered with him. They partnered with him a couple of times. Now, that's very encouraging. And I think one of the big takeaways from this particular section, as he kind of winds it up, is that, we can encourage other people, maybe not by doing the same things that they do, but by embracing the goodness of their ministry. I may never. We've got people in our congregation, and I'm thinking of one lady in particular who makes cards, and her cards are beautiful. And she sends them out to all the members. And during this COVID thing, I think probably every member has gotten a card from her that she's made with her own hands. And that's a blessing. And Ed could never do that. And if I'm being totally honest, nor does Ed have interest in doing that. I don't want to make cards, and it's just not my thing. And I would probably, you would not want to get a card that was made by Ed, right? It probably would not be something that you would say, oh, I'm going to really cherish that. But I can embrace somebody else's ministry who actually does that type of thing. I can embrace the encouragement, for them, and I can support it. So, we may not have, a level of involvement in their particular talent and ability and willingness to do something, but I can support it. Paul says, look, no one did. No one had that vision. No one had captured that spirit except for, the Philippians. And then they did it, but not only did they did it, but they did it over and over, right? Even in Thessalonica, you sent me help for my needs once and again. And then he goes on, he says, not that I seek a gift, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit. Now, there's this underlying thing that I think Paul is saying here that we really need to grasp a hold of. And it's built on the points that we've kind of made already. Number one, Paul's talking about his missionary work. He's talking about, the beginning of the gospel. He leaves Macedonia and he goes and he begins to, preach. He begins to teach. He begins to build these churches. He begins to, plant these churches and establish the churches and travel back to them and try to encourage them and strengthen them. That does not happen without people partnering with you to provide for your needs. I mean, if he is busy, that busy, encouraging and strengthening and preaching the gospel and doing all of those things, then, when is he finding time to work another job, to make the money, to, provide the food and a place to live and, all that? Now, there were times when, Paul did work as a tent maker. He did work as a tent maker with got people like Aquila and Priscilla, and he did provide for himself in some areas of his mission work, especially in places where he thought it would work against him to actually take money from the church. When it would have been used as a leverage or a wedge against him, he did not take that. He did not take that, of that right of his. You don't muzzle the ox that treads out the corn, he would say. In other words, the person who is, giving of you in spiritual things ought to receive of you from your physical things. So, he's there and he's doing this mission work, which, number one, it needs to be done, right? But we need to take that personally as well. That neighbor that is, kind of, sequestering himself there, and you see now from time to time walk in the neighborhood, they need to hear the gospel just as much as everybody else does. Just as much as the guy in China or, in India or in some country that you can't even pronounce the name of, as much as they need to hear, the gospel, so does your neighbor. So this is something that, number one, we need to all take personally. Paul is going on the trip, so we can either go on the trip with Paul or we can support Paul. Now, that's what the people in his day should have thought. Of course, that's not what they thought. They thought like, a lot of people today do. In that, well, Paul's going, why should I go? I'm not going to give him money, or I'm not going to support him in any way. But he can kind of do that on his own, or let the people that he's teaching, support him. Of course, not everybody buys into that quickly, and sometimes that's just very simply not, possible. But number one, the mission needs to be done. Number two, it needs to be, supported. We need to be partners. Just overwhelmed and be delighted to be able to say that at Pinellas Park we support several mission works, and over the course of our time, the time that I've been with Pinellas Park, we have been involved with some that we are no longer involved with, and we are now involved with some that in years past we have not. But we've gone to places like Mexico and China and India, and then also into Russia. We were involved in a Russian, mission outreach at one point in time, and other places too. So we ought to always be looking for opportunities to do that. But again, it's not just foreign nations; it's here. It's here in our own country. How can we, number one, do the mission ourselves, or number two, how can we support that mission? And then I think the third thing, the final thing that I want to mention today, the final encouraging thought, hopefully it is to you, for us today, is what Paul says in verse 17. Not that I seek a gift, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit. Notice the supporters of Paul not only helped him, but they had the fruit that increases to their credit. Now, you know what he's saying here? He's basically saying the same thing that Jesus talked about when he said, lay up your treasures in heaven, right? You can lay up treasures here on earth. You can store it all up and you can retire and you can, live off the fatness of your wages, doing very little for the rest of your days, and let that be your focus. Let the focus be career, save, have those years where I'm not responsible for anything but spending lots and lots of money. A lot of people, that's their idea. That's their idea of retirement. We can have that mentality, or we can have that mentality that, I'm going to labor all of my days so that I can store up, treasures in heaven. I'm going to store up treasures in heaven, and there it will be counted as here fruit that increases our spiritual reward. Whether we choose to do the mission work or partner with the mission work will affect the reward that we receive in the end. And I would hope that each and every one of us, if our life is considered to be a spiritual tree, that there is much fruit hanging from that tree. And if indeed it is a tree, each one of those fruits has names or have names, and we can point to them and directly relate the idea or the story of how they became fruit on our tree there in eternity. So, what fruits are on your tree? Are you bearing much fruit for Christ? Are you involved in that mission, that outreach? Are you looking for new ways during this kind of sequestering period that we have to reach out to those who are around you? I think Paul encourages us to do that here in this particular context, to partner with each other in the gospel to help grow that kingdom and to seek that fruit that will be accounted to our spiritual accounts. I appreciate everybody coming out today. If you do have comments that you would like to leave, please do so in the chat, either on the Zoom room or likewise on the YouTube. If you do have prayer requests or updates, or you want to be a part of our weekly newsletter and you're not on our Flocknote account or our Faith Life, then please leave a message to that effect. All we really need is your telephone number or your email address, and we can get you on our list and make sure you receive our updates. If you do have a Faith Life account, you can search us on Faith Life. Just search Pinellas Park Church of Christ, and you can follow our group, or you can send a request to be a part of that group. And right now, if you are part of our Faith Life group, you have access to the entire Logos digital library. So it's a great time to open it up and study Bible. Never a better time. I mean, they have tens of thousands of resources on there, ranging from scholarly things such as Greek and Hebrew, all the way down to encouraging, really practical, easy to read books about prayer and spiritual disciplines, and all of these wonderful things. So if you're interested in studying a particular topic, you can go to the Faith Life, access the digital library, and enjoy all of the blessings that Faith Life through Logos is giving us during this period of coronavirus. It's just a limited time. I believe that only goes through the month of July, or maybe halfway through. Can't remember which, but you can enjoy them while they last. But I appreciate everybody coming out today. This has been your Daily Dose.